Welcome everyone, Farmer Cop here. This is going to be a guide on how to grow sugar beets in Farming Simulator 25. This is going to be for all platforms. The only thing that's going to be a little bit different is the controls I'm going to use, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, are going to be PC controls. However, if you are not on PC, you can go ahead and activate that help window, which you can toggle it on and off up in the upper left-hand corner for PC players. If you're on console, go into your general settings and then turn your help window on. And then everything I do, when you get in the vehicle or see any of the controls, it'll have the appropriate ones for your controller up there in the upper left-hand corner. Same thing if you're on PC and using a controller. Just turn on the help menu so you can see the controls over there until you get used to them. I also do tend to talk a little fast, so if you need to slow me down, you can do that down below using the YouTube controls. In addition to that, there are time codes down below, so if you're looking for something very specific, you can go ahead and jump to that as well down below, and it'll help you out. And if you're just looking for harvesting or planting and seeding, you can always do all that stuff down below and just skip ahead. And what we're going to cover in this video is going to be field prep, planting sugar beets, caring for sugar beets, harvesting sugar beets, and then what to do with the sugar beets after we harvest them. Also, check out the first pinned comment down below, see if there is one. If there is one, there's something I missed or something that was changed in an update or something like that. I actually recently, since they put update 1.3 out, went back through a bunch of my videos and had to add a few pinned comments in to make sure that everyone had the most up-to-date information, so make sure you guys check that out. But let's go ahead and start off with the field prep stage. So we're going to use this little tiny field here. If you've seen any of my other guides to growing crops, we've used the same field every time, and field prep is going to be pretty much the same for all those as well. I will put a card up on your screen if you want to get a little bit more information on the different types of field prep, but basically what that's going to go over, it's going to go over the differences between all of these guys here in soil cultivation. But what basically you need to do to start is, if after you've harvested another crop or something like that, you need to plow the field, cultivate, use a disc harrow, power harrow, subsoiler, spader, something like that. You have to use one of those on the field to get it ready for planting. You can skip that step if you are using a direct drill planter, which I'll talk about that more when we get to seeding. You can skip this step if you're going to use that. The only other thing you need to worry about here as well when it comes to field prep, if we go into our actual game settings here, if you have periodic plowing required, if that is turned on, which it is for us, you need to worry about that a little bit more. You also need to worry about fieldstone and lime in here, which we're going to talk about those next in field prep, but just while we're in the settings, I'm going to show you that you can turn those on and off in here. If we go to the map and we go over to soil composition, I'm going to turn everything off just to make our life easier. If we turn on this needs plowing here on the left-hand side, this is our field right here, so it does not need plowing. But if it had this red hue on it, one of these red hues on it over top of our field, in order to avoid losing yield, we would need to go over the top of it with a plow, a subsoiler, or we would need to go over it with a spader. So one of those three things is what we would need to go over it with. So just be aware of that. The other thing to note as well, when it comes to sugar beets, every time we harvest sugar beets, we are going to have that plowing state required on there. So essentially it's going to be required almost every time, unless you're doing like some sort of crop rotation or using different fields. So just be aware of that. The other thing that we want to be aware of as well is the lime state. So if we are playing with lime required on, if it has this kind of bluish hue over it, or teal, or whatever color you want to call that, over the top of our field, we want to make sure we take care of that as well. Last thing as well is, if we do have field stones turned on, be aware that plowing and cultivating and stuff like that may put field stones up. If you check out that field prep video that I put a card up earlier for, that'll tell you which things are going to put up field stones and how big those field stones are going to be. So just be aware of that. But yes, liming, field stones, and plowing and cultivating. That's one of the things you got to do. Those are the things you're going to have to take care of. But now that we have that taken care of for this one, let's go ahead and talk about planting. So sugar beets are planted with a regular planter. If we go into the store here, we go down to seeding, go under planters. Any one of these in here will do sugar beets. Now, the one kind of exception here, sugar beets actually have this guy right here, which is specialized. It'll only do canola and sugar beets, which this is actually the seeder we are going to use. A couple things to think about as well, as I did mention direct drill. If you use this Missouri here, it says additionally, this seeder offers the possibility to seed directly. No previous cultivating or plowing is necessary. You have that one, and then the Kinsey is also the same way. So if it says that down there, you don't actually have to cultivate or field prep the field to be able to plant sugar beets over top of it. This will just drill right into the soil, and you don't have to do that field prep step, unless obviously you need to deal with lime and stones and the plowing state. I also want to note with the stones too, because I forgot to note it earlier, it's not going to affect the yield, it's just going to affect how much damage or how much wear and tear happens on your equipment as it's being driven in the field. So just be aware of that. The other thing we want to focus on when it comes to seeders is fertilization. So this guy right here, the Missouri, for example, has seeds that it'll put down. It's obviously going to plant these crops, sugar beets being one of them. That's the one we're focusing on now. It'll also fertilize the field as well if you put fertilizer in it. Some planters do not do that. This one does fertilizer, this one does not. This one does, and then this one uses liquid fertilizer. So Obviously, we want to come into here. We can buy seeds in here as well, by the way, in the store, which I'll show you how to load those in your seeder in a second. But if you need fertilizer, you can buy it here, solid fertilizer, and then we have liquid fertilizer. Just make sure you get the correct fertilizer for the seeder that you're using. And you can do that by looking at those icons. So again, just any one of these planters will work. Can't use a regular seeder. None of these guys are going to plant sugar beets for you, so you have to use one of these planters in here. And we're going to use the Grimmy Matrix right here just because it's a specialty planter, so we might as well. A few things as well to note. Down here it does have the seed capacity, so it'll hold 180 liters of seed, has a required horsepower down there, and it shows the working width and the working speed. So just make sure you meet those requirements. But yeah, let's go ahead and I'm just going to click over to our tractor here. This guy already has it hooked up to it. So all we need to do is come up next to the seeds here, which actually this one might make us unfold it first. Let's unfold it by hitting X for PC. Oops, maybe not on top of the seeds. And if they come up to the seeds like this, we should be able to hit R to refill. It's not doing it right now. If I open the cover, though, now it's going to let me refill it. You can hit N to open the cover, and now we have 180 liters of seeds. There's fertilizer there, but we don't need to worry about that because our seeder does not require it. And then you can see it is set to canola down there, the bottom right-hand side, and this is the same for any seeder that you buy or any planter. Just hit Y to select your crop. Obviously, I just have 2 here, but we're going to select sugar beet. Then I'm going to come up to the field. I'm going to hit V to lower the planter down, and then hit B to turn it on. And now you can see I am planting sugar beets, just like that. Sugar beets don't require a lot of seed. You can see our seed is not going down that quick, so even having not that much seed in there, like this one doesn't hold very much seed, it's going to last a fair amount of time. Now, when we go into the menu here, we go over to growth, you can see that now we have something growing. So as the green gets darker, it's going to get closer to the ready to harvest or remove foliage state, which we'll talk about those later. The only other thing you need to worry about as well is the crop calendar. If you have seasons turned off, which I do, this is what your crop calendar will look like, and it means that you can plant or harvest whenever you want. But if you go into your game settings and you go down here to seasonal growth and you turn that to yes, you are going to go back up here and you're only going to be able to plant and harvest them in certain times of the year. So if we go down and find sugar beets right here, sugar beets normally can be planted in March and April and harvested in October, November. So when I come back out, it's now not going to let me actually plant any more sugar beets since we've switched to seasonal growth. So I'm going to go back in our settings and turn that off for now for course our purposes. The other thing as well is you don't want this on pause because that means nothing is going to grow at all. So if you're not getting any growth at all, make sure you turn that off. But we're going to go back over to no here for seasonal growth. And then I should be able to just kind of lift this up and then turn it off, turn it back on, lower it back down, and it should let me plant now again. So there we go. That's how we get it planted. I'm going to go ahead and finish planting this field, and then I'm going to bring you guys back in so we can talk about crop care. All right, our field is planted. If we go in the menu, you can see the whole thing's growing. That's great. Now we need to talk about crop care. There are basically 2 parts of this. The first one is going to be fertilization. We need to put down 2 layers of fertilization. If we turn this on, we need to get this dark blue. This light blue is 1 state, dark blue 2 states. We need that 2 state on here if we can get it on there. The other thing we need to worry about is weeds, which right now we don't have any weeds, but weeds are growing. You see there on their bottom right-hand corner, weeds are growing. Now, in the future, I will say this, we're going to talk about weeds in a bit here and how to get rid of them, but in the future, if you are just doing sugar beets, if you use, and I talk about this in my field prep video, if you use a plow to take care of that plowing state, your field will not grow weeds. These prevent weeds. If you use a subsoiler or a spader, they're not going to prevent weeds. Only out of all of these, only using a plow on a field is going to prevent weeds from growing. So you can do that to never have to worry about the weeds again, which would be nice. Or you can, of course, turn the weeds off. If you go in your settings here, game settings, down here, you can turn weeds on or off there. We're going to leave them on for now. But anyhow, okay, so we need to put fertilizer down. Now, because our planter does not fertilize, it means that we can put down our first state of fertilizer right now, right after we planted. If the seeder or planter we used does put down a layer of fertilizer, we have to wait a month or the next day in game, depending on your settings, to be able to actually put down another layer of fertilizer. However, we don't have to worry about that. We can put down the first layer now, which I'm using solid fertilizer to spread this out. You can either use solid fertilizer, liquid manure, which is slurry, digestate, solid manure, or you can use liquid fertilizer. So there's a lot of different options for fertilizing your fields, but if we go in the menu here, we can see we are adding a state of fertilizer on there, which is great. So we'll add this, and then next month, which it's August right now, next month we're going to have to add another layer of fertilizer on the field, and we are going to have to deal with the weeds. So I'm going to finish putting this fertilizer down, and then I'm going to bring you guys back in here. And actually, you know what? I'm going to just show you in the store where you can get all this different stuff for fertilization. I should show you that real quick. So if we go in the store, down here under yield improvements, you can use a sprayer to spray down liquid fertilizer, manure spreader for the solid manure fertilizer. I can't talk. The solid manure fertilizer. If you're using manure as your fertilizer, use one of these. The solid fertilizer spreaders in here you can use for spreading fertilizer. This one also does lime, by the way. I forgot to tell you guys how to spread lime. That's what you're going to use right there. Then you use a slurry tanker to do slurry and digestate. So those are the ways that you're going to handle that. And then we'll go back in the store and talk about weeds here in a second. But I'm going to go ahead and fast forward a day, and then we're going to throw down another layer of fertilizer, just like we just did here, and then we're going to talk about weeds. All right, I just put down our first or second layer of fertilizer, because I figured you guys had already seen how to do that. You don't need to see it again. You can see it's that dark blue, which we're looking for. Now I need to worry about these weeds, which are this light green right here. Now they get darker and green as the weeds get bigger, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a sprayer to spray herbicide on the weeds. And when you're taking care of the weeds, you can again use a sprayer to spray herbicide down. And again, you can buy herbicide in here. There's some herbicide down there. Or you can use a weeder. So the difference though here is these guys can only take out certain weeds. So this one, this one, this one, and this one can only do small grown weeds. It'll say down there as you drive over the field to only take care of small ones. This one can do small and medium, but anything larger than that, you absolutely have to use a sprayer to get rid of them. Now we have small grown weeds on this field, and if you're wondering how you can tell, if you go up to the field and look down bottom right hand corner, it says weeds small. So now we know that we have small weeds in the field. So just be aware of that. But I'm going to let this unfold so we can get to spraying. And it's pretty straightforward. We're just going to drive over it while we're spraying down the herbicide. After it's unfolded here, we just have to hit B to turn it on. And there we go. Now we have it on. You can see it spraying, and you can see the weeds are getting killed off behind us. And if we go in the menu, they're this nice brown shade here because they're all dead. Now, if you use one of the weeders, not the spray, like one of the weeders we just talked about in the store, it's just going to remove that off the screen. You're not going to see the brown on there. You're just going to see nothing, which means the weeds are gone. So that's also very good. But anyhow, that is the way to take care of the crops for sugar beets. That's a quick and easy way to do it there. I'm just going to finish spraying all these weeds, and then I'm going to fast forward a few months until it is time to harvest our sugar beets. Then I'll bring you guys back in to talk about that. All right, the time has come to harvest our beautiful sugar beets out here. If we go in the menu, it says remove foliage. Well, that's not ready to harvest, so what's the difference there? We're going to talk about all that. If you guys have not done a root crop like this before, probably quite confusing, and you're probably confused about what that means. We're going to talk about that. So again, it is technically ready to harvest when it hits the remove foliage state. It just says remove foliage because there's an extra step that we have to do. So there's two basic ways to harvest sugar beets. You can use these pull behind sort of style harvesters here, or you can use a self-propelled one. Now, if you use, well, let's actually talk about the self-propelled first. It's the easiest way to do it. So this is more expensive. We go in the store here, and we go down all the way to beet harvesters. This guy right here, this guy, and this guy are much more expensive than buying these two guys. Given these two are still quite expensive, and I'm kind of sad. They used to have a smaller pull behind one that was $99,000 that you could buy, but this is what it is. This is what we have. So this guy here, all you have to do is buy it, and you're good to go. This has everything you need. These two, you have to buy a header with it. Just hit the combinations button at the bottom right down here to see what header you can put with it. This one also has a header trailer for this as well, but you just need that both. And also you can note too, these guys will also harvest your red beets as well, which is a new feature to 1.3 or update 1.3. But these three here, straightforward. Once you get the header put on this, or you just buy the one right here that has the header already basically built into it. This one has a header that you have to buy separate. If I can get into it here, you can see I can hit Q to detach that, and then Q to reattach that. So if you have one of these self-propelled ones, I just have to unfold it. So I'm going to go back over to there, hit X to unfold my harvester, and then I simply have to go up to the field, which I'm actually going to save my game real quick, make it easier for me to take my photo here in a little bit. But if I just lower it down and hit B to turn on, oh, I got to unfold the header. Goodness, there we go. Let's unfold that. Apparently wants that little piece down in the front there. So there we go. Lower it down, and now easy peasy. I can go right over it. You can see we're getting a lot of sugar beets. That is no big deal. That is easy. Harvested, no problem. If we go in the menu here, remove foliage, not a big deal. You can also see here if we go to needs plowing, this needs plowing now because we put sugar beets on it. So you'll have to redo the plowing. So yeah, that is the easiest way because you don't have to worry about it. Now, the more difficult way is using the pull behind one because there's essentially an extra step. So if I just pull this out of the way, we'll turn this off now, get over to this guy. If we go back in here to beet harvesters, these two here work together. So this one is the harvester digs the sugar beets out of the ground. It says this at the end, which is important. Note that a halum topping is needed prior to using this machine. Well, this is the only halum topper that we have. So we're gonna have to buy this and use that. So we have these two options here, but first we have to go over the beets with this to remove that foliage, and then they'll be ready to harvest with this. So if I get in this machine here, which let's just fire both these guys up so they're ready to go. It's all good to go. We just got to lower it down and turn it on. So if I hit V and then hit B, turn it on, it's going to start chopping that foliage off the back there. And you can see the sugar beets are still there. And if we go in here now and we go over to this, it is now ready to harvest with our pull-behind harvester. The one caution, this halum topper goes obviously behind your piece of equipment. So the one thing you're going to have to either do, if you hire a worker, you don't have to worry about this because the worker won't damage your crops. But if you are playing, if we go into, game settings here, if you're playing with crop destruction turned on, my tractor potentially could damage the crops. Which actually it's not right now. They might have disabled that. I thought that was going to be an issue. Look at that. We all learn something new every day. But I don't seem to be having any issues here. If you are seeing some damage on your crops, just be aware that you just need to turn that off or you need to get narrow tires. But it seems like they disabled that, which kind of makes sense. Otherwise, you'd be kind of screwed pulling this behind you. But there you go. Now I'm just taking off the tops and I don't have to worry about the crop destruction. So that's fantastic. If we go back through here, we'll get this lifted up. And he also, I believe, can fold this guy up if you wanted to. Oh, nope, does not fold. I would say it would be nice if it felt folded up a little bit more easily to make transport better, but it does not fold up. And then now, when we get over to this guy, we just have to lower it down, hit B to turn it on, and there we go. We can start harvesting our sugar beets, and if we go on the menu here, they are getting harvested, which is great. And this is quite the wide harvester, but you can see it does not have a very big capacity. It has a 6,400 liter capacity, so I honestly could probably just about fill this up just going around what we've removed the tops on. You can see we're already, yep, 50% full right there. Yeah, just going down through here. Yeah, it's going to fill up. And you can see if I go over top of the stuff that has not been, the foliage has not been removed, we're not doing anything. We are no longer harvesting anything. No longer harvesting anything. Our capacity is not going up anymore. But then for these, and this goes for the self-propelled one as well, just hit O to put the pipe out and then drive any bulk trailer under it. So if we go up here, any one of these bulk trailers in here are going to be able to hold your sugar beets down here, which is easy. And now that we have harvested our sugar beets, what can we do with them? There's a few things. You can store them on the ground or in the railroad silo. So if we go in here, if you're looking for stuff to store in the railroad silo, if anything weird over here has a capacity listed at 0, that means the railroad silo can take it. The other way to check that is if we go down, where's sugar beets at? There we are. If the railroad sell point does take them, you can store, I think it's 300,000 liters you can put in the railroad silo, which every map has a railroad. So you could store them in a silo there. That is one way to do it. You also can hit left control I, on PC at least, to dump them just onto the ground, and you can dump them in a pile somewhere, and then you can either scoop them up with like a front loader bucket or something like that, or if you actually go in here, there is a piece of equipment, this guy right here, which is designed to pick up sugar beets off the ground. So these two things at the very front will unfold, and then it'll have a belt off the back here, which you can unload stuff into a trailer from getting it off the ground. So that is a way to do it. If you wanted to store them on the ground somewhere, that's a way to do it. Other than that, there's not really a way to store them right now. You also can sell them, and you sell them like any other crop, and I'll put a card up on your screen right now to a short video on how to do that if you want more information. But basically, if you just go in here, you find sugar beets, just take them to one of these points that's going to buy them from you. That's what price they're paying per 1,000 liters. So just be aware of that there. You also can use them in productions. You can use them in the sugar mill to make sugar. And there might be a couple other productions that take them, but that's the main one that people use them for. And you also can use them in animal feed, for example, like feeding your pigs. So you can use it for that as well. But that's all the uses for it. And that's everything I've got for you guys. Hopefully this was helpful for you. If you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button up on the screen to join the Farmer Cop channel and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss any future videos I may post. This has been Farmer Cop. Thank you guys for coming and watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.